This was a kind of red mist with terrifying lethality. If one failed to avoid it in time, they would be completely engulfed by it. Every time the red mist disappeared, the city had to carry out a major cleaning. And the people here were born with 2 horns on their backs, just like other normal organs of the body. In addition, everyone had a flashing barcode on their shoulders. Even if they were only slightly eroded by the red mist, the green barcode would turn red, which meant that their life entered the countdown, and people were at a loss as to what to do about this situation. Over the years, countless lives had been lost in the red mist. The people who had survived by chance were also filled with despair in their hearts. But there were still people who believed in miracles. According to legend, the blue meteor that appeared every day was the incarnation of the god. If the god could descend, the world would be saved. On this day, Ella was taking a tram. People here all had a flashing armband on their shoulders. Just as Ella picked up her pen to draw the old lady opposite, a little boy got on the tram. The armband on his shoulder was actually red. People around cast strange looks at him. Immediately after that, the vendor Anthony was peddling his products to the passengers. Ella thought it was very interesting and drew this scene. Suddenly, both she and Anthony noticed the passenger's exposed wallet. Anthony had the intention of stealing it. Ella quickly drew a cage and showed it to the other party to warn Anthony with this, that if he did it, he would be locked up. But Anthony still did it after smiling. At the moment of being caught, the little boy with the red armband fell to the ground. It seemed that he had a sudden illness attack. The people around quickly got off the tram. Ella originally also wanted to leave, but in the end, she softened her heart. Under Anthony's gaze, she squatted beside the boy. After wrapping her hands tightly with a soft cloth, she handed a small toy made of wire to the boy. The boy immediately held it tightly in his hand. Ella put her hand on the boy. The armband on her body also showed a tendency to turn red. After a while, the boy completely lost his vital signs. When Ella withdrew that hand, the armband returned to normal again. Ella got off the tram and came to the city. She opened the iron gate and took out her small cart. Pulling the cart and walking towards the market street, she saw Anthony again. After a man threw away his things, he also slapped him. The man noticed that Ella was peeking, and immediately roared something loudly. Ella quickly said that she couldn't hear and couldn't speak either. Anthony took the opportunity to hold something and tried to run away. After realizing that the man wasn't to be messed with, Ella quickly left. The performers had already been waiting for a long time. Ella and Munsa quickly arranged the playback venue. She took out the playback device and put the prepared film into the device. After everything was ready, the man in the robe stepped onto the performance stage. The assistant helped him tie several metal coils. At this time, Ella manually operated the playback device. Then, the metal coils connected to the man kept flashing with a blue light. Then, an animation started to be played on several curtains. The stars twinkled on the curtain, and a blue meteor streaked across the night sky. Then it turned into countless blue light spots. The light spots converged into a man with a horn on his back. The man waved the tool in his hand. Suddenly, farmland and water sources appeared on the ground. With another wave, the sky appeared. The man then took out 2 small horns from the kettle and threw them on the ground, and they instantly turned into a little boy. The adult and the child communicated with each other using their horns. Immediately after that, the adult asked the little boy to follow him. The next second, he actually turned into a blue meteor and returned to the sky. But the little boy tried for a long time and couldn't turn into a meteor. A terrifying monster appeared in the forest. The little boy ran forward in fear but fell to the ground. At this time, the horn on his back sent out a piece of music into space. The musical notes instantly shattered the blue meteor. The adult returned to the boy's side, saved him and took him away. The story ended perfectly, and the audience burst into thunderous applause. For some unknown reason, Ella's expression seemed to be deeply moved. Then they began to sell a certain liquid. There was a mother who wanted to pay with other things. Her child was in a critical condition now. But with the man in the robe watching, Ella could do nothing. Just then, an alarm suddenly sounded in the city. People outside began to flee for their lives one after another. Ella and the other person also quickly packed up their stall and ran away. Looking back, the thick bloody fog was quickly spreading. They pulled the cart and fled into the infirmary. The thick red fog was blocked outside by the steam, but there were still people outside who didn't have time to take shelter. After the red fog disappeared, several people wearing protective suits began to disinfect the streets. Ella covered her nose and walked out of the building. She saw the bodies of the victims on the ground. A pang of sadness welled up in her heart. In the evening, Ella came to the river and stepped on a painting with her feet. After the bell of the building rang a few times, the sky quickly darkened. Large patches of aurora appeared in the sky. Ella seized the opportunity when the blue meteor streaked across the sky, and held up portrait paintings one by one into the air. But the meteor showed no sign of stopping at all. After the meteor disappeared, the sky quickly brightened. On this day, Ella came to the square to perform again. Ella suddenly had a flash of inspiration. In the animation, the little boy stopped the meteor because of the horn, so she could also give it a try. So Ella began to create. She made a large number of portrait paintings, and stuffed the paintings into the roller one by one. There was also a small episode during this period. Just when Ella was observing the pedestrians and drawing, a mysterious-looking Wade appeared beside her. The armband on Wade's body was also red. Suddenly, Wade stood up, and sprayed white paint shells violently towards the wall. After a bout of outwitting and contending with the air, he threw several color grenades again. After such operations, a colorful picture actually appeared on the wall. This was created by Wade according to the patterns in the booklet, but just at this moment, a steamship flew in the sky and several soldiers landed, but unfortunately, the gun barrel just misfired. Before long, Ella saw Wade again in the alley. The armband on his body was constantly flashing red light. Ella secretly saw Wade using a syringe to draw out some red liquid from his body. Then the armband returned to normal. The paper in Ella's hand accidentally fell to the ground. It immediately caused Wade to drive her away. It was only after she ran far away that Wade saw there was actually a portrait painting of himself on the ground. After several days of hard work, Ella finally finished the production. She secretly took the playback equipment and came to the waterside again. When the meteor appeared, Ella raised the small horn and aimed it at the meteor, and made the scroll turn, but it still seemed to have no effect. Ella was a bit unwilling, but suddenly Ella felt a breeze. Then the equipment on the ground actually started to turn. Ella quickly raised the horn and walked into the water. When the pointer of the equipment stopped turning, many mysterious symbols were engraved on the turntable. However, the next second, the bloody fog came again. Ella quickly ran back. At the critical moment, the strap of the equipment suddenly broke. Ella couldn't bear to part with that turntable, so she missed the opportunity to escape. Fortunately, she didn't lose her life in the fog, and just injured her eyes and palms. However, the armband on Ella's shoulder also turned red. After the fog dissipated, Ella went back and picked up the playback equipment. After her performance partner saw her change, he just took away the equipment and ignored Ella, and because of her hand injury, Ella couldn't even pick up a paintbrush. Perhaps her fate would be the same as that of the boy before. Ella stood in front of the mirror and looked at her burned eyes, which were extremely terrifying. So she tore off several pieces of rags, stuck them around her eye sockets, and drew patterns on them. The next day, Ella went from door to door to inquire about information related to the mysterious symbols, but except for a bottle of mysterious liquid given as alms by an old woman, Ella got nothing. She squatted in the corner and drank the liquid in the bottle. At this time, someone was selling flowers in the square. Ella took a closer look and it seemed that an aurora was emerging above that person's head. She quickly followed the girl and came to the next floor, but suddenly, the red light on the armband kept flashing. In a trance, Ella came to another time and space. There were countless paintings floating around. Ella tried her best to keep herself awake. Only then did she return to reality. After returning to the residence, Ella's body began to twitch slightly. This time, she drew a portrait of herself. Unfortunately, there was still no response. When the blue meteor streaked across the sky, the next day, Ella got on the tram. In a trance, she seemed to come to that mysterious world again. After Ella in white touched a painting lightly, a stack of dynamic pictures of Anthony immediately appeared in front of her. With a thought from Ella, all the paintings were blown away. The next second, the bumping sound of the tram brought her back to her senses. Ella came to a machine and pulled the joystick. The machine shot a glowing cube into the air. Ella picked up the glowing card below, but when she turned around, she was bumped into by someone, and it turned out to be that Wade. At this moment, Ella looked at Wade again. She was surprised to find that there was actually a blue light on his head, so she immediately followed behind Wade. Wade was now the target being pursued. He rebuked Ella and told her not to follow him anymore. Unfortunately, Ella couldn't hear what he was saying at all, but suddenly, Ella fell to the ground. She actually entered the mysterious world again. Ella in white ran desperately to the end. There was no way back here. And seeing that Ella kept following him, Wade simply decided that the two would work together. He sprayed white paint on the wall again, and threw small horns one by one onto the wall. then pressed the detonator in Ella's hand. A large amount of colorful paint exploded immediately, and a colorful mural was formed again. But Ella suddenly fell to the ground. In that mysterious world, she was looking for a way out but got nothing. At this time, a hurricane suddenly hit and swept away some of the paintings. Ella found that there was actually a hole beside her. She quickly got into the hole, and Wade used a syringe to draw out some red liquid from Ella's body. The next second, the hurricane in the mysterious world suddenly stopped. Ella crawled to the other side of the hole, only to find there was a big tree made up of many paintings inside. Ella turned her head and looked outside, and there were flashes of lightning and rumblings of thunder on the other side. With the help of Wade, the armband on Ella's body finally returned to normal. She wanted to ask Wade what the light on his head was all about, and she took out the turntable in her bag. But Wade didn't understand what Ella was saying. But just at this moment, those shield soldiers came again. Wade wanted to run but couldn't. He could only be arrested. Wade was escorted onto the steam plane. Ella had to deliberately assault the police. Only then was she taken away together as she wished. During this period, Ella took out a small model of the Horn Man from her bag. She gestured and illustrated the legend of the blue meteor to Wade. Wade ignored her. After that, both of them were put on special shackles and led to walk forward. Then they took the prison admission photos. Ella even saw Anthony here, and that short-tempered Nolan. After that, Ella and Wade came to the cell. Wade had been here many times. Coming here was like coming home to him. After a while, Anthony and Nolan also came to the cell. But Nolan was obviously notorious. As soon as he came, he aroused the disgust of everyone. But just as Anthony went up and scolded him a few words, Nolan's armband began to flash wildly. Obviously, he didn't have much time left. After the blue meteor streaked across the sky again, Wade prepared to escape from prison. He took off his shoes, turned the knob, and manipulated the things he had handed over to slowly move closer. And Ella suddenly saw the familiar blue light on Nolan, so she tried to approach the other person bit by bit, and slowly put her hand on his hand. The next second, Ella entered the mysterious world again, but this time, Nolan was actually in it too. But he was in a state of being blind. Ella took the other person's hand, guiding him to run forward to escape. Wade, who was escaping from prison, looked back, and found that the armbands of them had actually turned blue. At Ella's request, Wade, as usual, drew out a tube of red liquid, then quickly broke the iron chains on the heads of several people, and escaped from prison before the police officers arrived. Several people came to Wade's residence. Wade couldn't wait to know how the two had made the armbands turn blue just now. Ella quickly indicated that she was both deaf and mute. The two of them basically couldn't communicate. Fortunately, Wade has extremely strong hands-on ability. He tailored a set of equipment for Ella. During this period, Ella also noticed that there was a simplified version of the city's buildings on Wade's desk. He also pasted a lot of photos of his wife and daughter on it. It seems that Wade ran to the city to paint murals of his wife and daughter according to this map. Then Ella put on the new equipment. The projection instrument will project the images she has in mind onto the umbrella curtain. In this way, Ella can communicate with others. Ella first played the process of how she obtained the turntable, and there were patterns on Nolan's and Wade's heads. Anthony quickly asked if there was a pattern on his head, but accidentally spilled the things in his pocket all over the ground. Wade immediately found that there was a necklace left by his wife among them. This was what Anthony had secretly taken just now. Unexpectedly, he was caught in the act. Seeing that Ella still meant to defend Anthony, Wade directly drove them all away. What's worse, the three have already become wanted criminals throughout the city. Anthony didn't want to go with Ella. They could only go their separate ways. Ella wanted to continue looking for people who represented other symbols, so she held Nolan's hands tightly. The two came to that mysterious world again. Nolan gave the sound receiving device on his chest to Ella. Ella looked around and immediately fixed her eyes on Bonnie, whom she had seen before. She seemed to have had a conflict with the police. As a punishment, she was locked by the police on a machine in the air. When Bonnie sang a song, the pattern represented by Bonnie immediately appeared on the curtain behind Ella. Similarly, Bonnie's picture also appeared in the mysterious world. Ella pushed Nolan and walked up to her, asking Bonnie what song she had just sung. Bonnie sang it again. Just at this moment, Wade came out angrily to look for Anthony, because he found that the booklet had also been stolen. So several people got together again. But unexpectedly, a rapid alarm sounded suddenly in the city. The bloody red mist was coming again. The police originally wanted to unlock Bonnie's shackles, but they accidentally dropped the key. They could only rely on brute force to create a miracle. Everyone quickly pulled together with the police. At the critical moment, Wade knocked down the machine, And then everyone quickly fled to the safe area, but unexpectedly, Bonnie was still eroded by the red mist. Ella held the other person's hand, and found Bonnie in the mysterious world. She wanted to lead her to escape from the approaching hurricane, and on the curtain behind Ella in the real world, it showed the danger that the two were encountering. Before the two of them had run far, Bonnie was controlled by the ropes formed by the paintings. Although Ella and Wade did their best, Bonnie was still dragged away by the hurricane. The next second, the armband on Bonnie's body suddenly went out. She was gone after all. Everyone's hearts couldn't calm down for a long time. At this time, Ella's physical condition was also unstable. Black substances began to be mixed in the liquid that Wade drew out. Blood also oozed out of Ella's ears. Obviously, her body was also on the verge of collapse. Ella suddenly thought that in the legend, it was after the horn sent out singing that the blue meteor stopped. Ella immediately untied the controller on Nolan's horn. They put their hands together and entered the mysterious world. Ella found the singing video left by Bonnie, and played the singing out through the horn on Nolan's body. Nolan was the first to try. He sang along with the song once, then several people came to the street. They carefully searched according to the sound, and quickly found a person. Ella went up and negotiated with him. After explaining the reason, she wanted him to sing. The song played in Nolan's horn. The man was quite reasonable, so Ella successfully recorded the man singing. Next, Ella and the others continued to search. During this period, they came to the memorial cemetery again. The people in the photos all lost their lives in the red mist, and Ella successfully recorded a lot of singing. There were more and more pictures in the mysterious world. On this day, Ella and the others came to the street again. They saw the woman in front of them take out a card that kept flashing from her bag. Next, more and more people's cards began to flash. The tower in the distance sent out a gathering signal, so everyone spontaneously went to check out the situation. When Ella and the others came to the bridge, a large crowd had already gathered below. At this time, the large screen began to play a promotional video. A man was injured by the red mist. Originally, he was supposed to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, but now a new technology has emerged. First, use a machine to cut off the horn on the man's body, then input energy through the cut-off horn. Immediately after that, the man whose body was flashing with colorful lights appeared on the stage. The man actually stood up again, then he entered a small compartment. The staff sprayed thick red mist at him. The man actually had nothing wrong. The audience immediately burst into thunderous applause. Doesn't this mean that as long as they go through the treatment, they no longer have to live in fear? The people who had already been infected by the red mist were even more excited, but Ella's mood was very complicated. She originally wanted to summon the legendary god to save the world. It seemed that all her efforts for so long were in vain, and the card that Ella drew didn't flash, which meant that she couldn't receive the transformation immediately. After that, a lot of operating platforms were installed in the city. A few days later, when Ella walked on the street again, many people had already completed the modification, but Ella's physical condition further deteriorated. Her mood became more and more depressed. After returning to the residence, Ella found that Wade kept his head down all the time. The moment Ella touched him, she immediately entered the mysterious world. Wade, who had no sight, was desperately looking for something. Ella took a photo and looked at it. It was a photo of Wade's deceased wife and daughter. Ella was just about to go forward to comfort him, but she was suddenly broken free by Wade. Unexpectedly, the card in Ella's pocket suddenly started to flash. Anthony was overjoyed when he saw it, and quickly pulled her to queue up. Ella watched as the woman had her horn cut off, and her body became another appearance. She suddenly became short of breath. An inexplicable fear welled up in her heart. When she stepped back, she saw more people with flashing lights. Ella immediately threw away the card and took out the turntable. Obviously, she still didn't give up. But just at this moment, the red light on Nolan's armband kept flashing. Ella quickly stepped forward and held his hand, and Wade drew out the red mist from his body. Wade quickly took Anthony back to the residence. Ella in white grabbed Anthony, who was about to be pulled away. But after Wade made some attempts, Anthony's situation couldn't get any better. At this time, the card in Anthony's pocket started to flash. A trace of determination flashed in Wade's eyes. Ella understood what he meant and quickly wanted to stop him. Wade still pushed the two of them onto the street, but Ella rushed to the front of the cart to block them. Because she had just seen a pattern on Anthony's head, Ella didn't want Anthony to undergo the treatment. Wade really couldn't argue with her. At this time, the bell in the city rang. The two then turned around and came to the waterside. Ella quickly held the hands of Anthony and Nolan at the same time. The three of them entered the mysterious world together. The next second, the sky suddenly darkened and a blue meteor streaked across. Ella played all the recorded songs, and they were also singing at the same time. She cast a pleading look at Wade. Wade had no choice but to sing along. But unfortunately, the miracle didn't happen. The blue meteor left without mercy. The few of them didn't know what to do. And in the mysterious world, Nolan hugged Anthony. In the end, the two were swept away by the hurricane together. But Ella was completely helpless. Soon, dedicated personnel came to deal with the bodies of them. Ella stared blankly. Suddenly, Wade saw a notice board beside them. He stepped forward, tore off a piece of paper, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it on the ground. Then he left without looking back. Ella looked at that piece of paper and got up with difficulty. After she returned to the residence, she unfolded the paper. Only then did she be astonished to find that the pattern on the paper was exactly the same as that on the turntable. It turned out that it was the wind that blew the advertising paper into the equipment that day. That's why the pattern was engraved on the turntable. In an instant, Ella's mind went blank. Could it be that all the efforts she had made were in vain? Later, when the bloody fog descended again, only Ella was hiding in the safe area, and those people who had been transformed outside no longer feared the erosion of the red fog at all. Ella's heart sank to the bottom. After the red fog dissipated, Ella came to her former performance partner. She found that even the proud man in the robe had completed the transformation, and the small cart used for performing the myth had been abandoned for a long time. Among the people with flashing lights coming and going, it seemed that Ella was the outlier who didn't fit in. Ella leaned against the wall feebly. A trace of despair flashed in her eyes. It seemed that everyone was really living happily. The belief in her heart began to crumble. Then Ella came to the card drawing machine again. She saw Munsa walking towards her, and happily stepped forward to hug her, but was shocked to find that she couldn't feel Munsa's heartbeat at all. Munsa quickly stretched out her hand to prove that she was indeed still alive, but Ella was startled. Just when she picked up her bag, she saw the painting of Anthony in the birdcage that she had drawn before. Ella recalled the scene on the tram. She suddenly had a complete understanding, and quickly ran to find Wade. During this period, she found that there were staff members removing Wade's graffiti. When she found Wade, he was actually standing in the line waiting for the transformation. Ella walked up to him and showed him the painting of Anthony, but at this moment, Wade had already been disheartened. In addition, the curtain behind Ella had been damaged. She couldn't tell the other person her thoughts. Ella was eagerly gesturing with the statue of the god. No one paid any attention to her at all. Wade was next in line. Ella desperately snatched the card and rushed onto the stage. Immediately after that, she was pressed onto the transformation table. Wade didn't understand what she was going to do. Soon, the horn behind Ella was cut off, but at the moment of cutting it off, a huge crack letting in light was torn open in the mysterious world. Wade finally understood what Ella was going to do, so he rushed onto the stage and snatched Ella away, then carried Ella and walked on the street. Sparks were constantly coming out from the broken end of the horn, and the golden crack in the mysterious world continued to expand. Ella turned around and ran wildly without hesitation. Immediately after that, the armband on her body suddenly went out. Just when Wade was extremely sad, the projector on Ella's shoulder suddenly emitted a blue light. At this time, the bell in the city also began to ring. The next second, a blue meteor streaked across the sky, and the projector on Ella's body projected the paintings she had created one by one onto the large screen behind her. Later, just as it was said in the myth, a miracle happened. Then the god slowly appeared and squatted beside them. The story ended here. This film was created by a couple. After the 3-month filming ended, the couple sold their house to carry out the post-production special effects that lasted for 3 years. They poured their efforts into it, just to restore the fantasy world in their hearts. So even though there's no dialogue at all in the whole film, it has amazing music and visual effects. Myth of Man uses a nearly poetic visual language to tell a story about survival, redemption, and the struggle of human nature, which is an absurd fable. When the city launched the technology of cutting the survival horn in exchange for immunity to the red fog, the public enthusiastically embraced the transformation. They were willing to become the new humans without a heartbeat. But Ella insisted on pursuing the legend of the blue meteor. It seems absurd. In fact, it is the last resistance to rejection of alienation. In the end, Ella sacrificed her physical body and awakened the descent of the god with art. Myth of Man is by no means an easy commercial film. Viewers who like this style can find the original film and watch it. If you like my channel, please subscribe to it.